It seems that everyone can benefit from understanding the law of attraction, and where
Sort of like the law of gravity.
right,
It helps to recognize it and not work too hard against it.
right, where I've seen in my discussions where I've seen people lose interest is where they start to have to believe that there's conscious creativity outside of human beings, that there is a consciousness that
We know.
isn't. Yeah.
We know.
So, is there going to be a time? And I kind of
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You see, you can't leave that part out. And here's the reason. So, here you are, as an extension of that, whether you want to admit that you are or not, or whether there's enough evidence for you to support that. We notice that as brilliant as you are, you have not scraped enough dirt together to launch another planet into orbit. And so it seems to us that as you just observe the scope of your existence, that it would help you to know that there is thought beyond that which you are producing here in this time-space reality that is part of who you are. So anyone who doesn't acknowledge that has a very narrow view. They must not be looking up or out. So as you acknowledge that there's all this going on, over which you have very little understanding. You don't even understand electricity. You flip switches and that's it. You don't know what you've harnessed or how you've harnessed it. In other words, there's very little understanding of so many of the physics of this time-space reality. So we would think that you would stand in a sort of awareness that there's more to the picture than you are yet articulating through your see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. And so then when you start stepping into the world of vibration, now you're talking about thought, which means now you're talking about consciousness. And when you start acknowledging the difference in the way people are expressing consciousness, you have to acknowledge that you are having such different experiences based upon something that might be worth understanding what that difference is. In other words, life just is piquing those questions within you. So then, having said all of that, so here you stand as consciousness, an individual, a personality, and let's say that you don't want to acknowledge that there is anything inward or beyond what you're seeing right here and now. There are a lot of people who have taken the essence of what we are teaching and want to talk about law of attraction without talking about that connection to non-physical, but they're leaving out the most important part for this reason. As you are in this environment and you're focused upon the conditions that surround you, it relegates you to a lot of individuals who are looking to the opinions of other individuals for your guidance. And therein lies your greatest problem. It's the greatest flawed premise of your existence, because they're fickle, because they're not wired to be focused upon you. They're wired to be focused upon themselves. Their own point of attraction is what their interest is about, not yours. And they're not in agreement about how you should behave about anything. And you found that out if you had two parents who were close to you as you were growing up. In other words, everybody's got a different opinion about what you should be doing. So if that is your perspective, and you are looking to others for validation and confirmation, and then you're constantly not finding it, not for very long, you have, without meaning to, given away your own guidance system. So then we say to you, you are more than this. You are source energy, and a part of that source energy is here in your personality. It's you. But the larger part of you, who is aware of everything that you are about, every time you explored and asked for something more, that larger part of you was the one who expanded. That larger part of you took that expansion and holds that vibrational frequency and calls you to it. Now, if you can accept that, if you can trust that just for a moment, and then put together the correlation between how it feels when you go with the flow. In other words, hate someone and feel how that feels. That's because your inner being isn't doing that. Condemn someone else or yourself and feel how that feels because your inner being isn't doing that. When you acquaint yourself with the steady reality of who you really are, now you have a basis of guidance that you can trust. So when Louise Hay or anyone says trust the process, if you have not activated within yourself this relationship between you in your physical form and who you really are, then you are like a cork bobbing around on a violent sea. You have no way to know which way is even up. There's no way for you to find your way or to fulfill your reason for being or to find any true satisfaction or to be on your path. And the only way that any of you will ever feel good is when you're going with the flow. The very emotions that you feel are the indication of how aligned you are with that part of yourself or not. And if you leave that part out of the understanding, then truly you do not have anything. And you cannot reason with someone who does not have a platform of reasonability, you see. And so we're not worried about them. We want them to be joyful. Many people who are not understanding what we're talking about are happy because they are finding what they want to focus upon, and they are focusing upon it. In other words, there are more people in alignment in the sports facilities than in the churches and synagogues. In other words, it doesn't matter what your object of attention is. There's no one right answer. We're not professing to have the only answers to this, but we are telling you the basics. You're more than you know, and that part of you is aware of you, and that part of you is present with you in every moment and offering a vibration that is so strong that when you deny yourself the harmony of it, you don't feel so good, and your thriving, your lack of thriving is evident, and your diminishment of thriving is evident, you see. And so just test it. Esther has stopped trying to explain it to those who really don't want to hear it. When they say, well, I don't believe that there's anything out there, Esther said, well, it probably isn't. And when they say, well, then why do you think there is? And Esther says, oh, it just makes me feel better. And they say, so you are deliberately deluding yourself just to feel better. And Esther says, hey, people try to feel good in lots of ways. This is just my drug of choice. I like to feel good. And I have felt, Esther will say, speak from your own experience, I have felt the clarity of aligning with something that is really clear. I can't define it. I can't tell you from where it comes. All I know is when I tune into it and I find that clarity, I feel good. And I wish that for everyone. This is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.